Do one thing every day that scares you. And that is a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. And so glad you have joined me today. You might be seeing me with my having a good hair day on YouTube and my lipstick all bright and cheery, or just listening to my voice, which I'm grateful that you're doing either one or both. Um, so if you want to know more about me, my world, chat for 20 minutes. Luci Dumas Coaching is the place to be. LuciDumasCoaching.com. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and all those good things. So I always thought that I had covered charity giveaways, what to do to um, offer free sessions, make some money for a charity, get some great clients. And I realize I've never done a solo. I've talked about it. I do have a couple episodes from my book called 10 Big Ideas for Marketing in the Real World, which you can find at LuciDumasCoaching.com. But the light bulb went on. I've never really fully shared all my suggestions. And this has been one of the ways that I have been highly profitable year after year. Um, right when they called it the perfect storm, uh, when the '09, 10, when the market crashed, so people had less money. I had been advertising in Yellow Pages and a little freebie parent magazine, and that stopped working. And uh, I had no work. And I realized I have got to do something very proactive to get work. And what I knew was that when I offered my services to my gift certificates to the right charitable organizations, nonprofits, and did everything strategically well, I got work. So one day when the light went on, I just sat down and I started searching for as many events as I could find in San Diego and made a spreadsheet and kept really good notes, got in touch with the organizers, the people in charge of the auctions, and I lined up maybe 15 events for the year. And that got not only, made sure I had my bills paid, but I made some nice profit on that. And also, like with Children's Hospital, I brought in, I don't know, 25, $30,000 over several years for some of the ways that I supported them. So a lot of times people say, I tried it, it didn't work. And if I could talk to you, and I'm happy to, about the things that you've done, all the steps, we could dissect why it didn't work. There's usually some really basic strategies that were left out. So we're going to talk about those today and more. So, okay, here's the basics. I find a nonprofit organization that is having an event, a gala, something like that, that is going to have lots of people that are my ideal clients there. Ideal clients are people who can afford what I want, would love what I want. So, like, I wouldn't go to a computer nonprofit for people that love widgets because I love to do families and children and such, uh, which for me, that's my world. That's what I know. That's what I know how to sell. Um, and you want to make sure that some things like the ticket price is high. So if it's something like, $15 for a bouncy house event in a park, probably not your ideal client. So you're looking for um, organizations also that would have other people donating and sponsors and such that are your ideal clients. And then you get that person, you get in touch, and you sit down with them and you have a consultation. I usually, always start with a phone call, and then we get in touch in person. And I plant all these little seeds for purchase. And I also have little little qualifying things. One that I learned the hard way. I just one day was so frustrated at spending way too much time with a client that seemed to want the moon, but when it came to buying more than her package, uh, she didn't have the money. And so I have people deposit a refundable um, amount, usually $100, $200, that is a reservation for the time. And they will get it back if they come and see the work, because I do everything in person with my sales. So um, that will pre-qualify people who are like, oh, I'd have to borrow that from my mother, or, you know, uh, I'm not comfortable doing that. Because every single person that purchases our gift certificate or wins it is not necessarily going to be our ideal client. Um, all right. So then the next part of the strategy is you need to know how to do the actual sale. And I've talked a lot on the show about in-person sales, sitting down with them. I love a projector because you can see it large. You can take it to their home. You can have big boards and show what something might look like on a 30 by 40 or a 30 by 30, and it looks like a real image. So that's a part of my secret sauce. So you need to know how to do that. Now, some people think, oh, I'm going to do these charity events to get my name out there. And if you're listening, I did air quotes around that. For me, it's worthless in a large city. It could be helpful. Let's say you just do it just for the awareness of you existing in that area and such. So if you're in a smaller city, or if you have a neighborhood that has your ideal clients, then doing something like that could be helpful. But mostly I do them to meet wonderful people and have the opportunity to thrill them, make new friends, get that connection, do all the things for them, and then have them purchase many, many wall portraits and albums and such. So, uh, that's just something to think about. Now, I have had coaching clients where there were specific events. For example, one of them is a pet photographer, and she did events to get her name out there in the pet community because there were some of these things that were so targeted that it did help get her name out there. All right, you have to accept that there's going to be what we call in the olden days aces. An ace is one where they only get their their face value of their gift certificate. And that is your marketing cost. But when you're doing this strategically, you get a lot of less aces. Okay, what's my next thing? Okay, what to offer. So when I'm doing um, a normal tabletop event, I offer a session and then enough money that they could buy one small print and have a little bit left over. So, um, for example, it may be a $600 value if my session fee is 300 and an 8 by 10 is 200. Then that gives them and this is prints. I do not, in charity events, I do not include digitals. To me, that's a great way to work really hard and get very little. Um, Now, if in your whole program you offer digital as part of the purchasing and so forth, then that's your strategy, that's your pricing and so forth. But for the gift, I like something tangible. Now, I'm careful. I don't offer specifically an 8 by 10 because people, and I've seen this, I've been around 40 years. So I know some stuff. And over again, not just me, but friends of mine, when we've talked about this, have discovered that if you put a size, then they get focused on, okay, I'll just get my 8 by 10. But if it's like you have a session and you have X amount uh, of print credit, which could cover at least one small print, or you can apply that to a larger order, then, that makes the edges soft on that. I discovered, I don't know if I made it up or somebody gave me this idea of doing a buy it now program. And so with certain charity events, like an organization for ovarian cancer, which attracted my ideal clients because at the time, my best clients were women with grandchildren, with one or two grandchildren. And ovarian cancer is a is an older woman's disease. Anyway, I did a buy it now program instead of an auction, and I had a little booth that I would hang out with a little bit, and I had an assistant. And for at the time, for $100, they got a $600 gift certificate. Uh, I had a form that they had to fill out, so I went home with all the contact info. Now, I only do that when I can attend the event and I offer an exchange candidates so that I'm mingling, I'm meeting people, I'm sending them over to my booth and such. Not a grip and grin. I got roped into one of those one time, a step and repeat, and there was no time to make those connections. And the whole thing was a disaster. So do not do those because you want to be elevated in their eyes. And when you're doing a, step and repeat, they're thinking of you as a volume photographer, not a high-end photographer, doing portrait art or whatever it is that you do. Um, Tricky if you offer branding or, well, boudoir could probably work, but branding, it's hard to upsell with branding. So I'd have to do some thinking about that to figure out how that could be useful and actually bring in more dollars. Okay, so usually the live auctions at these events are big money things or like somebody's, uh, you know, cocktails on somebody's boat that people know or uh, a town share, what is it? Vacation rental share or something big money. But if I can do a charity live auction, what I donate is one wall portrait. Usually it'd be 20 by 24, or I call it up to. So that if they say, well, I don't want that big, I'm like, well, you can have any size you want. Uh, I don't frame it. It's not canvas because those are some options to upgrade. And I don't allow the money value on that. So, that might be a $1,500 or $2,000 donation. And, I get in front of everybody. One thing that's worked really nicely when I've done that is I offer 10 certificates that are $100 after the auction closes for the big one. And the first 10 people that hold up their number paddle can get my regular gift certificate. Let's say it's a $600 gift certificate. Um, I want to have you be a little cautious about it being over 1,000. That can get a little tricky. So you want it kind of modest. All right. Oh, and when I'm doing the buy it now, uh, I say I've donated 10 and I have uh, the forms for them to fill out, sign up for 10. But magically, wonderfully, if all 10 sell out, I've got more. Um, One of the children's hospital, the first 2 years, I sold 25, and the next one I sold 16. And these were all mothers in the ideal location and the ideal age of children. So that was a big, big win. I think I'd not be here today in this house with the bills paid if I hadn't had those years with that group. All right. So I have never done an online auction. Some of my coaching clients have, and they've been tricky and or helpful. So if people have done that, I'd love to hear how you made that work really well. Oh, my lipstick is too bright today. What is up with that? I'm not vain at all. Okay. Um, so the nice thing about, because sometimes these organizations don't have an actual event. Um, so you want to really pre-qualify those. You find out who that's going out to, because if it's going out to anyone with a pulse and not primarily their community, uh, you can be in the uncomfortable situation where somebody has this certificate and they absolutely are not able, even though they love what you do, to purchase anything more. Um, so, that's one little caveat here. One of the benefits is they can go to your website and see your work. Um, if I was still needing a full calendar, I'm sure I would run into more of these online auctions than the last time I had a full calendar of auctions. Mhm. So I'd try to think up ways to maximize this. Maybe on my website, I'd have a pop-up, not maybe, I absolutely would have a pop-up with some sweet offer uh, that would get people on my mailing list. And have to have a think about what that offer would be, but something compelling so that I can stay in touch with them and have more than the auction itself be a benefit. Um, so you want to be sure, both live, in person, but especially with online auctions, that your branding and your website is strong. And a little note, your website doesn't need to show every photograph you ever took. Uh, Less is more. And the thing is, the weakest image that you put on your site is the one people remember. If you have only 8 photographs, but they are stellar and they show what you do and they're authentically something you can do every day, not like an accident of, oh wow, you know, that worked that one time. That is more powerful than if you have 50 images, um, of all kinds of things. I generally suggest you have just a few categories, 2 or 3, or one if you have a specialty, and maybe a dozen strong images. And you want your color and your communication, your copy, everything to be really powerful for those online. All right. Another little trick is when I'm talking to the chair of the auction, I let them know that I'm going to give them 2 gift certificates. But they don't want to put them both out. But what they can do is if there is a bidding war between some people who really want it, then they can offer that second gift certificate. Sometimes what they'll do is the top person and the second person will then pay what the second person offered. So that can double for all the work of, getting in these auctions. That can double my leads. And especially it tells me there's people that they're both very interested. Um, I do require a minimum starting bid, but I don't really want to know what it went for because it's not that important. Um, as long as it was, the starting bid. Now, I don't make it like, let's say this is the 600, it's a basic session. Then I would say minimum bid would be $150. So that's a really good deal, but it's not too cheap. And it starts the auction. So what you want to do is have have the people that are partying and drinking and enjoying the day and snacking, thinking, "Oh, that's not very much. I'll start that," but not too cheap because that doesn't support your brand. But if it's like 300 starting bid, people will be a little resistant. So think on that. Okay, the display is very important. I loan them a framed wall portrait at it 20 by 20 or 20 by 24, small frame, no mat, no glass, and a small book, or it could be like a folio that stands up with a little variety. I have really beautiful, nice, classy easels that I loan them, um, and they they go behind a table, and the ledge is high enough on the easel that it's not going to be down below that some nice wooden or ornate wrought iron easels. You can't move it up. Like if you can see behind me, I have a print on an easel, and it's nice and high. All right. And you want to make sure that the signage says what it is. Um, so that it needs to say the custom session with Luci Dumas fine photography, $600 or um, what would the value be? Anyway, $600 for a session and $300 print credit. Um, and when I loan them the display, when they come over to pick it up, because I don't live close to where most of these events happen. My neighborhood is not the ideal one for these kinds of events, at least it didn't used to be. Um, I have them sign it out, and they sign that they know the value of what they're taking, which can be like $3,000 if it's the print, the book, and the easel, and a return date and an understanding that they are responsible for getting that back to me or paying me $3,000. And when I added that to my repertoire, um, my activities, it definitely helped. Sorry, I'm fishing around. Definitely helped get them back on time. I over the years, I think I lost a couple of setups, but not a big deal. All right. So my gift certificate, I limit it to weekdays within 10 miles of my business and no beach. Um, Now, if you're just starting, I don't recommend doing this way necessarily because you want to get practice. You want to, you want all the work that it takes to get one of these events set up and to get your gift certificate and all of that. Um, but for me, the beach, I have to go 2 hours early because I never know when the light's going to be good and when it's going to be bad, and that's a lot of work for me. I'm also an overshooter, and so in this gift certificate, there's basically one goal. So they tell me they want a family portrait or just the kids together. That's their choice. And then I focus on getting several really great images of that combo. But I don't promise to do more unless they prepay more. So if they want all the breakout sessions, family, kids, individual kids, mom and dad, all of those things, then then they give me a modest deposit just to confirm their commitment to purchase those things. I don't know if that's sometimes a little confusing, but oh, and in that upgrade, they could do a weekend, they could do a beach, they could do farther than the 10-mile radius. Okay, one thing I found is if I don't get the phone number and the email, and of course the full name of the person that won it, nothing happens to it. Rarely, but occasionally, someone will follow up, but usually that's the person that's the bargain shopper that wants to make sure they get their um, $600 uh, package for the 150, $200. It can be very tricky. Some places are like, oh, sure. Some are like, oh no, that's confidential. And I'm like, yeah, but they're my clients now. I don't say it like that. So one of the ways to possibly get around that is that you do like a mailer, like a self-addressed envelope that people mail to you with that info in order to validate it. Um, I'm always thinking of how to get around that situation. And the thing to realize is some of these, and probably most of these charity events, the committees are new every year. Now, maybe somebody moves up, so they've been around, but it's like reinventing the wheel every time for many of these groups. So some of them are going to be sharper, more on top of things with you, and some of them are going to be a little resistant. So just realize you have the opportunity to also educate them a little bit as necessary. Okay. Um, I don't put an expiration date, but I put a must contact me by phone by a certain amount of days. Um, 2 weeks can be good, 21 days, something like that. And if someone has a very old gift certificate and they're like, is it still valid that didn't contact me to validate? I still honor it, but I might require them to uh, put down a deposit towards additional photographs. So they'd get the full value, but they'd give me, $400, $500 advance towards other prints. So, it's a case by case basis. One of the things that's very important is that I treat every one of these gift certificate receivers as I treat all of my clients. So it's not like, oh, you got a cheap thing, or if it was like a giveaway opportunity, a Facebook ad or a, an enter to win at an expo or something. I treat them like gold. I give them the full service, everything, everything, everything. Um, okay. So one of the tricky things is how to find them. And that's, you gotta sit. and research um, with a phone, with your computer, making lists. My local photography, no, sorry, my local newspaper, San Diego Union, once a year has like a little magazine that came with the newspaper when I had it in print that had all the charities, all the events, all, lists and lists and lists. And that was like psh, ideal. And I would circle uh, places to research. My associate would type out a list for me, and then I would just start emailing and calling. Um, Now it is also online, so I think I probably could go to my local, you know, research in their archives and find this year's, the 2026 list in, you know, on the computer. Um, but you want to think up, like we have a San Diego Reader is a freebie newspaper. I think it's still out there. And when I go to their website, there is a little link to charities. I found for coaching clients where we like spent a session together researching, just Googling charity events, St. Louis, um, and all kinds of things pop up. Meetup things come up. A lot of events will be on Meetup. Another is to just Google charities and nonprofits in your area. Um, and just find, like I don't know, there might be some health issue that has a nonprofit organization to raise money. And if you go to their website and you do some research, you might find that they had a gala last year and they may not have posted this year, but you can contact them and say, hey, are you having an event this year? So it takes some time. Usually after the holidays, when things get kind of quiet, that's when I'm like, uh-oh, I better get some work. And then I'll just sit down days and days and I create spreadsheets on Excel type. I use whatever numbers on Apple, and I just take notes, and then I make a second spreadsheet when I've booked. If you have CRMs, that's also a really handy way to keep track of your leads and then your bookings. I found when I was really busy, I needed three setups, three easels, three wall portraits, three little books. I used to get like little 5 by 5 or 6 by 6 small books. Um, let's see. Also, you might, especially in your town, or if you've got connections with venues that do weddings and events, sometimes you can just call up the event coordinator and ask, are there any galas, charity event fundraising galas happening this year? And um, they're often happy to share. Now, it still always goes to building relationships. So, like when I'm calling one of the organizations and I find out who the who the coordinator is for the auction, I'm very friendly. I ask them nice questions. I come across as professional and nice, and someone who wants to make their life easier. So, that's true in this business completely with everything, but especially wanting to have some one-on-one relationship with people and not just do everything. I want to caution you on that, not do a ton of texts and emails that can get very confusing. All right, I'm going to pause 1 sec just to discover if my brain has anything else it wants to share with you. So hold. Okay, what I left out was the gift certificate itself. So I have a lovely eight, 4 by 8, fits in a nice uh, envelope, a good looking, colorful, branded envelope with a ribbon around it. And it's on metallic paper because that goes with my brand. I have a photograph on the front. I have congratulations, you've won such and such value. And on the back, it's got some of the policies and such. Not every little thing and every little detail that would scare people off. The beautiful thing would be to have it in a box with tissue paper and something really, really classy and fancy. So you and do not let them make the gift certificate. Sometimes they'll offer that, oh, we'll just do that. Oh no, oh no. And if you're at the event, I don't like I'm not like a hawk on a tree or even a buzzard on a tree waiting to pounce, but I'll wander over if someone's looking. I'll say, "Oh, hey, I'm Lucy. I'm the photographer, and what I'm offering is a $600 gift certificate, um, that can get you a portrait session and in a small print." Uh, and then, but first I usually say, "Oh my gosh, I love that tie," or "I love your earrings." So those little icebreakers. Sometimes, and it is nice, even if you're not doing the candids for them for when you're doing the buy it now. But if they'll allow it, I like to attend. Sometimes I'll buy a ticket, and it just depends. But anyway, that's as much as I can squeeze out of my brain right now. And please forgive my raspy voice. And I don't know where this is coming from. I guess the wind is bringing in some pollen, but hope you're having a really great, we'll just say start to summer because yeah, it's around the corner. And that's all for now. Ta-ta.